All right. Hello and welcome to the Next Stop Nonstop Podcast. My name is Erica and I'm your host. So today we are talking about traveling with pets. I have the beautiful Miss Lindsay on the line and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Lindsey Johnson. I have been traveling now with my cat Aries for 2 years. We've done a little bit of everything. We've done some long road trips, we've done some air travel, we've camped, um, and we've had a really great adventure so far, and we're looking forward to sharing that today with you guys and maybe encourage some more adventures out there.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, thank you so much for that. Okay, so let's get right into it, shall we?
Sure.
So let's see. What inspired you to actually start traveling with Aries?
So I found Aries just before COVID started. About 4 or 5 months before COVID started, I found him at a park. It was December. Yeah, he was abandoned, so he just went home with me. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
He grew up on a farm in Texas, so that's where we're from. He had, like, 30 acres to run around. He had hay bales, a
Yes.
barn. Yeah, so he was really into, like, the whole outdoor world scene, like, he was a really great mouser, and um, I finished out my undergrad through COVID and applied, and I got into a grad school out here in Arizona.
Love it. Yeah,
And so I
that's
was like,
awesome.
okay, I'm gonna move to Phoenix. I'd love for him to come with me, but I feel terrible that I'm like gonna close his world down to like just my apartment, like he's had like an adventure on the farm. And so I decided that we were going to start harness training so that we could at least do some safe like adventures outside of our apartment.
I
And so
love
that
it.
started yeah, so that started kind of why we started doing the harness training and exploring. We moved out here in August. It was really hot, so we sort of
Oh, I
avoided
bet.
the outside. Yeah,
Yeah,
we sort of
I
avoided
bet.
outside for like 2 months. But when it got nice, we started doing some things. We joined this cat challenge called Kitty Cat Go Challenge.
I love it. Okay,
Um
tell me about that.
yeah, so it's a group of adventure cats, as the term has been deemed, that in October they do this challenge where there's like 30 things that you could try to do with your cat in that month,
Oh, yeah.
and so I was like, I found this on social media, I found it on Instagram. I was like, this looks like fun. So we started doing some of them, some of the easier ones, and we started late. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the month, we had done like all of the activities that,
No.
yeah. So we even went to a drive-in movie
Oh,
together.
no,
Yeah,
that's hilarious. So cute
so
though.
yeah, so we started doing all these things, and I realized that we really enjoyed, hiking and traveling. We did a trip out to Sedona, which is a couple hours away. So, through that adventure challenge, we just found out that we really enjoyed, like, exploring and doing things, like, really far out there and stuff, and, so that's kind of where it all started.
I love that. So now did you have to take him to a vet or anything prior to actually getting up and going? I know you said you did some air travel and things like that. Did you have to worry about that?
So, the vet stuff I pretty much took care of, for the apartment, actually. So
Okay.
when I rented out this apartment, there was like a pet, database that I had to register him through with
Got
all of
it.
his vaccinations,
Okay.
and that pretty much covers everything that you're going to do, in the traveling world. I mean,
Okay.
it'll cover airfare and any other, yeah, things that you wanna cover.
So what do you consider when you actually are traveling with Aries?
I think that what most often comes to mind with people is bathroom problems.
Yeah.
Cats are very particular about their bathroom needs.
Yeah.
So that one was a big challenge for us. And we've approached it a couple different ways. We did a lot of reading and research because I like to be prepared. And I was like, oh, this is one of the things that you don't want to mess up. Um, so when we did our road trips, because he drove with me from Dallas to Phoenix when I moved out here, um, I really was not prepared that first time. By the second time, I had a better idea of what I needed to be doing. But essentially, what we do now is I have a foldable litter box that I keep on hand in the car.
Is it
And
like cardboard?
when
Is that what you're talking about?
no, it's in my closet. I should have grabbed it, but it's it's like a fabric material kind of with like a little cardboard inside or whatever, but it folds up into like a square. So we keep that on
Nice.
hand. And then when we're traveling, when we're gonna do a long road trip, I'll fill, a trash bag with his litter, and then I'll put the trash bag when he needs to stop, when we stop for a potty break, I'll put it in the litter box, open it up so that the trash bag is still in the litter box and it acts as a liner. So that's
Love
kind of what
that.
we've done for that. He's also really comfortable just going out in nature.
Yeah.
Like I said, he was on the
I was
farm.
gonna
So
say if he's
some
on the
cats,
farm, yeah.
yeah, some cats really do well with that kind of, like, just, I don't care, I'll do it wherever. Um, it takes a little practice for other cats, like cats that have been indoors their whole life. So it's kind of a process to know where your cat is also, on that pendulum of bathroom needs.
Yeah.
Um, so that was our road tripping technique, is just to keep some like a litter bag on hand. For air travel, it's a little different. I don't carry litter with me.
Of course, yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a little bit.
I was like, that'd be
Um,
different.
yeah, there's a couple things that we do. One is 4 hours prior to traveling, he doesn't eat. And
Okay.
this really helps. And really, you're not starving them. They'll be okay for a couple hours. Yeah. Um, but it does sort of minimize the need for them to go while you're going. So that's one. I also have a pee pad. It's sort of like for emergencies. It's very absorbent. It smells great. He's never like gone on it, but it's really good for air travel because it can obviously deal with number one, number two, or if you ever have a vomiting episode,
Oh,
because that's
yeah.
something else that can happen with like stress. Um, so that's another thing that I highly recommend is a pee pad. Goes in your backpack. It's great. We have extras. They're like diapers for pets.
Yeah, of course,
Um,
yeah, and it's funny because
yeah.
that's how you have to pack for your little baby.
Yes, I have felt so motherly in, like, the last year. I'm just like,
Yeah,
"This is like my practice kid." Like, I
that's
think it's great.
hilarious. I'm telling you, it's a
Um,
real thing.
yeah, yeah, my mom's just like, I got a Mother's Day card from one of my aunts as a cat
Oh,
mom. I was like, "Okay,
yeah,
this is a bit much, but okay."
yeah.
Um,
I get them all the time.
I kn um, the last thing is that a lot of airports have, pet relief stations, and to be honest, they're very geared towards dogs, which is nice for dogs. But as more people travel with cats, I hope that it encourages a little bit of a reevaluation to those relief stations. We have visited a couple, um, but not. He's never been comfortable enough to use them. There's not a
Yeah, it's
litter
probably too
box
many smells and
available.
everything else,
A lot
yeah.
of smells. It just feels very exposed, and cats really like to feel like they're sort of hidden. Um, Even like the extroverted adventure cats, in those kinds of environments like something a little bit more sheltered. So, I mean, it's fun to check them out, and maybe your cat will be brave enough to try them. But I think that's the third thing that we really look at for air travel is those pet relief stations.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So what are some things, you had to do or have learned to do to help your pet adjust to traveling?
So, um, there have been a lot of things that I've learned on the way, sort of that I wish that I'd known at the beginning because sometimes I'm just like, I can't believe I did that to him. um, he's been such a great sport
I was
through
gonna
through it
say,
all.
sometimes it's just one of those things you're like, "Ugh, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry."
Yeah, like I said, our first road trip out here was totally like I knew that I was traveling with a cat, so I had anticipated him sort of needing like an enclosed thing. So I bought this like pop-up enclosed thing on Amazon. And like 30 seconds in there, he'd like ripped a hole in the mesh and was just like, I was like, oh,
Yep,
this
so
is
much
not
for that.
going well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he rode the rest of the like 15 hours hopping from my lap, my mom's lap, the back seat. He would just wander around the car,
Yeah,
which was fine, but it's really unsafe when you think
for
about it.
sure. For
For a
sure,
lot of
yeah.
reasons, for them, for myself. So I was like, I need to do something better in the future. So I found a pet booster seat, and it's actually really great. It attaches to your driver's seat or wherever, and you can clip them into it. It keeps him at the window level because he likes to look out the window. It's got an open top, so I can pet him or feed him treats if he's feeling a little bit stressed. So I've fallen in love with those. In fact, I just sent my sister one because she's going to be traveling with her cat to California. So kind of like things like that, that I knew I was looking for, I just didn't know about until I'd kinda gotten through it. Um, but yeah, so, we've done a couple of bike rides too, and that was a bit unexpected, in how we prepared for that. To be honest, I was riding with him the first time, and I'd left the top of the bag open, and he was, like, sticking his head out, and I was like, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
so picturesque, it's so
Yeah.
cute." Then this cat jumps from my
Oh, no.
backpack, and
I
I'm
knew you were
like,
gonna say that.
"Oh my god," and he's, like, on the leash, so I, like, wrap my arm around the
Oh,
back, I grab him,
no.
I, like, manage not to crash the bike. It's
Oh
totally
my
fine. "Hi, do you wanna come up and
yeah.
say hi?"
Is that
Aries
Aries making an
wanted to say
appearance?
hi.
Hi,
Yes, we're
beautiful.
just talking about
Oh,
you.
look at that. He is
Yeah.
handsome.
Thank you.
Oh,
Um, so, I learned to keep the lid closed.
yeah.
Now we open it a little bit, but he's much more aware that he's not supposed to jump out.
Yeah, don't do
Um,
that.
so, just little things like that that you're just like, I think it's just a live and learn kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And,
That's so
yeah.
sweet, yeah. But it's funny, but you're right. I mean, because it kinda goes back to what we were talking about before about taking care and they're kinda like your kids. You have to
Yeah.
do things to adjust and make them feel comfortable if you wanna travel and you want them to travel with you, yeah.
Yep, and every cat is different like kids,
Yes,
so
yes. So, do you find it expensive to travel with a pet?
I actually am debating this right now again. Every time that I travel with him, I question it because in the moment, yeah, I look at the ticket and I'm like, wow, it's $99 one way or $120 one way, And so, yeah, I think in that sense, if I'm looking at it right away, sure. But if I were to leave him at my apartment, I mean, I'd have to pay someone else to come and watch him or board him. And I mean, when you're considering the expenses, and then on top of that, like the stress of being alone for a week so I mean, there's just a lot of factors. Yeah, yeah. A lot of factors to consider. I'm doing 2 weeks this summer traveling, and I'm still debating what to do with him. Do I hire someone to take him to their house? Do I board him? Do I Hi, okay, yes.
He wants
He's
some loving right now.
yeah, he really does. Um Well, I think that you just have to weigh, like, the pros and cons of your options, and I think at the end of the day, as long as, uh, your cat is handling traveling fine, and there's ways to, like, practice it ahead of time to see how they deal with the stress, I think that it shouldn't stop you from traveling with them.
Yeah, I love that. So what are some of the ways, like you were talking about, that you can start to practice taking your pet out?
Yeah, so, um, there's a couple of, like, beginning steps, I guess, to adventuring and traveling, and that's, the harness training, which we talked about a little bit, and backpack training. So having a backpack is really important because that's their safe space. They can use it as sort of like their hideaway. Also, he he's really great about hi, walking, like 2 miles, and then he gets tired, and so then, like, I have to carry him the rest of the way. Um, he's got little legs. Um, so backpacks are really important for lots of reasons. They've also helped us as sort of like a hideaway when we run into dogs and stuff. Um, so when you have a backpack where they're comfortable and they're happy to be in it, that's kind of the first step towards the practicing, right? And so as we were practicing road trips, it's not so bad because usually you're alone in a car and it's just there are ways to practice being in a car. The way that we did it with him was we let him explore the car once with the engine off and then with the engine on, and we sort of just worked our way up to it. Um, when we were practicing for air travel, the biggest thing that I was afraid of was the noise, just the commotion and the busyness, because that's not something that you can control at the airport. And the airports themselves are usually stressful places, even to like humans.
Mhm. Oh,
so
for sure.
yeah, so we visited a busy coffee shop, a couple of coffee shops. Um, Because, like, it's that same ambiance, there's machines going, there's
Yep,
people
everything.
chatting, there's music, yeah. So coffee shops are great. We did visit a couple of stores. We went into a mall once. Just a couple of places where there's, like, things happening in the same sort of, like, idea that like, an airport would be. Um, of course, I highly recommend asking or looking online to see if these places allow cats.
Yeah. Don't just
Some
pull them in
yeah,
there.
some places are really pet friendly, other places not so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
And so, yeah, so checking before you go is important, but I think finding a place that emulates what you're looking to do with your cat is
Mhm.
really important as sort of
Yeah,
like a
I love
baby
that.
step. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, do you think you're able to fully enjoy your travels while having a pet with you?
Um, I think I can now.
Yeah.
The
Explain that
the
for us a little bit.
so the first few times I tend to be really, like, I'd overthink, and I like to plan ahead and make sure that I know what's gonna happen. I think that's a really wonderful way to prepare, to anticipate things, and is important when you're dealing with cats,
Mhm.
or, children or whatever
Yeah.
you're with
Yeah.
whatever you're in charge of. Um, so the first few times I was nervous. I was, worried every time he'd meow, I'd be like, "Oh, we're
Yeah,
okay,
what's
nothing's
wrong?
happening."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or I'd be worried about him being hungry or using the bathroom. Actually, one of my biggest fears was sitting in a row with people in an airplane where my seatmates, either don't like cats or maybe have a
Oh,
cat
yeah.
allergy. So that was a really big fear of mine the first few times that I flew
Yeah.
with him. 'Cause that's not something you can
Not at all,
control,
yeah.
and sometimes I don't know, I've never experienced it. All of our seatmates have been amazing, everybody's
Yeah.
fallen in love with Aries, and he's a
Yeah.
really good traveler, he never cries, he just falls
Oh,
asleep, you know?
yeah.
Um, but, that was a big fear of mine, was that I was going to end up sitting next to someone that was going to dislike my cat
Yeah.
or have a problem with it or something. But, it's good to know that most people are nice,
Yeah.
so the
I was gonna
majority
say
of
everybody
people.
wants to get to where they're going, they understand, right?
Exactly, exactly. So, but yeah, so I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, that's awesome. So, what have you learned about yourself while traveling with your pet?
I have realized that I really like to, well, I guess I already knew that I like to anticipate things. I like to be there
Yeah.
early, make sure that I get through everything.
Mhm.
Um, But also that I love feeling responsible for him. I think it's just
Yeah.
really fun, and, people really enjoy seeing cats out.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I think most people do, I mean, the majority of people don't expect to see a cat outside of someone's living room, you know?
No.
And so sometimes we're, like, boarding a plane and people are like, "Is that a cat?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
What?
Yeah, that's a cat." We actually got a little patch for his backpack that says "Cat on board."
I love
Um
it. Oh.
Yeah, because a lot of people stop and ask us,
Yeah.
and they'll ask, "How did you do that?" Or, "My cat would never do that." I'm like, "Well, you'd be surprised, some
Uh-huh.
cats are much more versatile than people give them credit for."
I would say so, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think that just being able to, have those kinds of conversations with people,
Mhm.
and he's just so great and well behaved. I'm just really fortunate because he's not obnoxious or meowing or screaming or
Like the
nervous or
one here in the
scared.
back.
Oh,
I
no.
was gonna say, I don't know if you can hear him, but he is just running off at the mouth right now. He's very
Oh my
vocal.
gosh. Yeah, so I realized that I love talking about him and showing him off, and just he's just really fun.
I love that. Okay. So how is your pet's temperament while traveling? I know you said he's kind of quiet. He
Mhm,
just goes to sleep generally, so he doesn't
mhm.
do too much at all.
Yeah, so, lots of I mean, like, cats are all different, right? And
Mhm.
so they deal with stress differently, and I
For
wasn't
sure.
exactly sure how he would deal with it,
Mhm.
when we first started, especially, flying. So
Oh,
I had anticipated, like, the worst, and I had packed Feel Away spray, which is like a
yes.
pheromone spray.
Yes.
I had packed, gabapentin that was prescribed to us
Mhm.
by our vet, and so I had decided that I wanted to see his stress level at baseline so that I
Okay.
would know kind
How to
of how to gauge it, and
Mhm.
from our visits to, like the coffee shops and the mall and stuff, like, I kind of knew that he was gonna be okay, like, he dealt with it pretty
Mhm.
okay, but of course, going through airport security especially, I have to pull him out of the bag, and usually
Yeah,
when
so
he's
they
in
have
the
to
bag,
yeah.
he feels safe. And so,
Oh,
I wasn't sure, how things were gonna go, and so
okay.
plus you're in that environment longer, so now I also travel with a blanket that I cover his backpack up with,
Aw. Mhm.
and that also just sorta, like, makes him, like, just chill out and take a nap. But even from the beginning, he was fairly quiet. He meows a couple of times, but he's
Mhm.
he's fairly mild-mannered. Um He's curious, so, like, when we find our gate, he'll, like, pop his head out to watch the planes land, and he's
That's
just
cute.
very curious. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very sweet. I think that overall, yeah, he's just not very vocal, and he's pretty sleepy, I guess I would say, even without, like, his drugs or anything.
Yes, drugs. Is it the same way when he's in the car or in the plane? Is he the same?
I would say so. Yeah, the car, I guess I think that because the top is open, he's a lot more
Mm,
engaging with me.
yeah.
He's just like, "Hello, I'm right here." But, with the plane, he's in his backpack, he's usually under the seat, it's
Yeah.
darker, so
Yeah.
he's just like it's easier, I think, for him to just, like,
Nap it out.
sleep and zone
Yeah.
out. Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. I
Yeah.
understand that, but I like to nap on a plane too, so I can't be
Yeah,
mad too mad.
me too.
Alright, perfect. So, is it difficult for you to find pet-friendly accommodations while traveling?
That's a good question. I did have some trouble when I was coming out here.
Okay.
I had found what I thought was I was moving, so it was
Mhm.
it's like 16-hour drive, something like that.
Ooh, yeah.
Um, and we decided we would split it into 2 days. So I thought
Absolutely.
that I found yeah, I thought that I'd found a hotel that was cat friendly, but when we arrived, they basically said that they weren't cat friendly and that if I wanted to bring a cat, it would be like an additional like $200, $300 charge. I can't
That's a
remember.
whole day. No.
That's exactly. So I
Yeah,
was just like,
no.
well, I love my cat, but that's a bit much, you
That's a
know?
lot,
And
yeah.
so what I ended up doing was I left my car parked outside with the windows down. I mean, not all the way down, but just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
cracked.
yeah. Mhm.
And I left food, water, his litter box all prepared, and he spent the night in my car. And I was super nervous. I
Yeah.
remember I, like, ran out there, to check on him, like, at dawn, basically, but my cat is, like, completely, like, nightshade black. So I'm, like, looking in my car trying to
You
find
can't
him, and
see
I
him, yeah.
couldn't find him anywhere. And so
Aw.
finally, like, he just peered up from under, like, the seat and stuff, and
Yeah.
he was fine, like, cats are very adaptable to things
Yeah.
too, and so he was fine. Um have heard that some hotels are really accommodating. The one that I stayed at was like, random motel, I don't even remember what it was called, but
Okay.
I know that there are some Airbnbs, like, when you, like, reserve your Airbnb through them, it
Mhm.
says cat friendly or not. We had some friends stay with their cat out in the woods and stuff, and, the other thing that we've done is camping,
Mhm.
which with some campsites, they allow dogs on leashes. So that's sort of my like, "Oh, so you're okay with
Interesting.
dogs, you're
Yeah.
okay with cats, right?"
Yeah.
Um,
I'll put him on the leash, it'll
so
be fine.
that's kind of exactly, that's
Yeah.
kind of the way that I take that. Of course, you should maybe double check. I
Yeah.
didn't, but it worked out. Um, but yeah, so I have found, like, as long usually if they're dog friendly, they're
Mhm.
pretty open to cats as
Yeah.
well, especially if they're staying in their backpack and are just sort of, like,
Yeah.
uh, relaxed. So, I think that's a pretty general rule for most places.
That's
They
cool.
say dog friendly, but they mean
Pet,
pet.
theoretically.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
cats
Yeah,
just
yeah.
haven't been out there as much,
Yeah.
so
And that makes sense. Now, do you ever plan to take Aries internationally?
I think I will end up taking him internationally. A little background to that, I am an organist.
Yes.
That's what I'm studying, right? And, I'm finishing my master's now in December, and
Mhm.
I'm applying to a couple of scholarship opportunities abroad,
Love
to
it.
study possibly in Italy or, France or Spain. So, a couple opportunities in that, it would be a 9-month program, so like a
Okay.
scholastic year.
Yeah.
And, my dad was like, "You know you can't take your cat." And I was like, "You know what? I think I can take my cat."
Yeah.
So, I think if I do end up going, I don't see why not, why
Yeah.
he wouldn't be able to come. I know that there are people who've done it, and he's obviously already comfortable with air travel,
Yep.
and we have a really good, like, bond, even in
Mhm.
this last year that has sort of just, like, grown through all of our adventures, and I don't see why he would be left out of that adventure of my
Yeah.
life, so
I love that. Yeah,
yeah.
I would love to take my pets, internationally. I think they're a little bit older and they've been more indoor cats, so I think it's a little
Mhm.
bit more difficult because they are older and they're used to certain things, but I
Yeah,
don't see why not. I think especially a young cat who's, used to things like that, do it. Enjoy it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So, what is your favorite thing to do with your pet while traveling?
That's a good question. Like I mentioned, he naps a lot. Uh,
Like, when you get
we
to a
do
new place, do you guys like to hike or anything?
Oh, yeah, that. We do a
Mhm.
lot of hiking. That's kind of like our trademark thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, he we didn't even start doing that until we came out to Arizona, but we found some really great
Oh.
hikes out here. There's not a lot of hiking in Texas. If you've ever
Yeah.
been, it's just not really that interesting.
Mhm.
Um, and so we started hiking when we came out here. I fell in love with it. We've done a couple of hikes in some of the states that we've road tripped through.
Mm.
We're traveling through New Mexico once, and I had planned it so that we could travel past White Sands National Park,
Oh, yeah.
and we actually
That's
got
beautiful.
out and we hiked it. Of course, it was a potty break for him in the world's largest litter box, and so
Yeah.
he really loved
I love
that.
that.
It was just a really
I
cool
bet he
experience.
did. He's like, "Oh, well, this is
Yeah,
perfect.
he's
Wait
like,
a minute."
"This is
Yeah.
everywhere." He did roll in it, and so my car was covered in white sand for, like, weeks.
That's a li well, you get to
Um,
take a little bit of that
yeah.
home with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. He was, like, covered in it, and I, like, tried to brush it out, but yeah, but, it's all part of the fun. And,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
so, yeah, we love hiking, we really enjoy that. We've done a couple of, like, Q&A sessions on our
Okay.
Instagram, which is kind of fun as we're
Yeah.
traveling because it's sort of
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
we're engaging in it right now. So, like, ask us
Mhm.
questions because 'cause we're living it, and
We're
so
really
we
doing
get
it
some
at this
really
moment.
and it's kind of something like especially if we're bored at the gate or something for a couple
Yeah.
hours, then
Yeah.
it gives us something to do, and I take pictures of
Oh, I
him,
love
and
that.
that's
Yeah.
what we
Oh,
enjoy
I
doing.
love that. So what's the most difficult thing about traveling with your pet? Whether it be air, whether it's, the idea of traveling internationally in the car, what is the absolute most difficult thing?
I think that the most difficult thing is not really being able to communicate to your pet what is going on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
seeing them react
Oh,
stressfully.
yeah.
We did this, recently, were going through a security check, and I have, like, a whole game plan for how I get through security with a cat,
Okay,
because
tell
you
me first of
really
all, tell me about that.
Oh, okay, yeah, so security, with a cat is challenging because you have to deal
Yeah.
with yourself, right? You
Yeah.
have to load all your stuff onto the belt, take off your shoes,
Mhm.
um, you load all of that up, then you have to put the bag that your cat is in a basket to put on the belt, but you have to pull your cat out and carry him through the body scanner.
Yeah.
So we've done this a couple of times. The last time it was a little bit stressful because as I was loading everything on, I had him in my arms. I was about to go through when the lady behind the counter was just like, is there any water? And I had a water bottle that had some water and I'd forgotten about it. So like normally I'm trying to like be super prepared and I'm like, so
Yeah.
I'm holding the cat. Do you mind just like unscrewing it and tossing? And she's like, there's a
Yeah.
trash can over there. So I was like, I had to come back, get the water bottle, toss it. And then it's kind of extra stressful because there's always like a huge line of people
Yes.
waiting to
Yes.
get to, and I'm just like trying to be quick about it, and I'm holding my cat, and
Oh.
people are like, "Is that a cat?" And I'm like, "I don't really have time to talk about
Yeah.
this." So it's just like especially those
I'm
moments
sorry, I
are
gotta go.
just
Yeah.
yeah, and so this last time, that's what happened to us, and so I was having to run around while holding him, trying to dump this water bottle,
Mm.
and, I hadn't trimmed his claws in a couple of
Uh-oh.
weeks,
Yeah.
and, so he just sorta, like, dug in, like, it wasn't even
Oh.
like he was trying to scramble or
Yeah,
anything,
he
but
was
he just
just
sorta, like
scared.
yeah, exactly,
Oh,
and you
poor
can
thing.
feel it, and I'm, like, just
Yeah.
I was really worried about it. We walked through the body scanner. Once you get through, you're not allowed to leave until they swab your hands for, explosive residue, so they
Mhm.
check you for that, which I think is sad that,
Well,
they would have to check,
that's where we
but
are.
yeah,
Yeah.
those things. Um, they swab you. Once you're good, you walk over, and that's where I put him back in the backpack, and then I
Okay.
like, adjust myself. So
Yeah.
I think that that's kind of the stressful thing is knowing that there are going to be stressful situations, and especially if your cat is having to be outside and vulnerable, you know that that's when they're most worried.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so I think that those are the scariest parts is
Okay.
when you just don't know what's about to happen and
Yeah.
things are sort of chaotic and you're holding your cat and you're just like, because
Everybody's
like
stressed, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
I've never lost him, but like I can't imagine like him jumping out of my
Yeah.
arms and then running through the airport.
Just
It's just
gone.
like,
Yeah.
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 So, oh, speaking of
Oh.
which, for those
Mhm.
reasons, I keep a photo printed out of him in case he runs away. I also have an
Yeah.
air tag that I keep on his harness.
Yes. Yes.
and a collar. So those are all really good tools for if you
Traveling,
ever
yeah.
lost track of your cat.
Yeah, and that
Um,
helps, the air tags and things just help in general, even if he's at home.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what we use when we go hiking and stuff, and
Yeah, for
so
sure. So do you ever, take him off the leash when you guys are hiking or out and about?
I haven't while I've been out here, like, in the
Okay.
city.
Yeah.
Usually, I don't because the trails that we hike are really populated,
Okay.
and they're specifically really populated by dogs, which he
Mhm.
usually is fine with, but I wouldn't ever want to be in a position where he's not fine or he's being chased or, all of these things. When
Yeah.
we're at home in Texas and he's on the ranch, I do let him go outside and just be off leash and it's his property and he's like,
Yeah.
walking around and stuff. Um,
I'll be back. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. He's like, "I'll be back in like 3 hours."
Yeah, that's funny.
But with cities and stuff where there's just a lot of people,
Mhm.
commotions, and dogs, I know some people do, but it's just I'm not there yet. I'm sure he'd be fine, but yeah. And it's all about knowing what's good for you and your cat,
Your
and so
specific yep,
yep.
absolutely. So, let's see, what are some of the ways that you would suggest keeping your pet safe while traveling?
Yeah, actually, that was a really great lead in.
Mhm.
So obviously the harness, the backpack are the number ones. With the
Mhm.
backpack, I set him on the floor once, and then he started panicking because all these people were rolling suitcases past him.
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
bad. So putting a blanket over him,
Mhm.
I think that's worked really well.
Mhm.
Um, for like really more dangerous safety situations, I guess I have a it's a little can of pressurized air called Pet Corrector,
Okay.
and if he were ever to get attacked by a dog or something, or if we were ever to get attacked by a dog, it acts somewhat like pepper spray in the sense that you just,
Oh, wow.
but
Yeah.
it doesn't cause any harm. It's just it emits a loud noise and some air,
Mhm.
and so it kind of just scares the dog
Startles
off.
them and keeps them yeah.
Right, without having to like cause any injury because I don't want to hurt anybody's dog. But
Yeah.
so I do keep that on hand for any sort of emergency situations. We also have a
Mhm.
small pet first aid kit that we keep in his backpack, and it's just got some like some gauze wraps, some tweezers, a couple of band-aid, like
Mhm.
anything for thorns or cuts. I mean, like we live in Arizona
Oh.
and he walks, on dirt and gravel and stuff. And if something were ever to happen, I'd have that, just on hand for,
Yeah. That makes
yeah.
sense, and what
So
about, like, flea and tick things? Do you use that while you're traveling or just in general?
yeah, yeah. So, when we lived on the farm, he used a flea collar because he was outside all day. When I moved
Yeah.
to Arizona, I was like, "We're not gonna do that, I'll just do Frontline Plus." So
Yeah.
I did that for a little bit. Somehow he still got fleas, and so we
Oh,
battled
no.
fleas for about a month.
Oh,
Um,
no. Poor thing.
and so we did do a couple of flea baths,
Mhm.
and we ended up bug bombing my apartment, which worked really well.
Okay, well,
I'm
that's good.
probably still breathing the fumes, but it's fine.
Open the
Um,
windows.
yeah. So we did that, and now he wears the collar when we go out hiking and
Okay,
stuff.
okay.
At
That
home,
makes
not
sense.
not so much, but
Mhm.
I do regularly check him because that was a traumatic experience.
Oh, I believe it.
Um,
Oh.
so for both of us, but
Yeah.
yeah. So we have done Frontline Plus, and we've done the collar, and we've done some baths.
Mhm.
So a little bit of everything, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Well, let me ask one more question before I get you out of here. So let's see. If there are, or do you have any advice for any pet parents out there who would like to travel with their pets but are scared or hesitant?
Sure. Yeah. I think that the most common reason for being scared or hesitant is the uncertainty of what's going
Yeah.
to happen. I think that a
Hmm.
lot of people like to know what's happening and plan ahead for it. So, a couple of things that I would recommend doing is sort of plot out the travel activity or the day or
Hmm.
whatever, like, okay, so if we're doing air travel, I'm going to remove my cat's food at this hour so that we can travel, to this place.
Hmm.
And so you're sort of anticipating all these things rather than reacting to them in the
Yeah,
moment, like, oh man, because that just adds to the stress of the day. So, in
absolutely.
regards to your pets, I would definitely schedule or plan or anticipate, even written down or on your notes app or whatever, when you get to a moment in that schedule that
Hmm.
you're uncertain of or you're worried about, like the security checkpoint
Yeah.
or takeoff or landing,
Hmm.
I highly recommend asking. asking someone about it. I know that that can be a little intimidating, but social media is a really great way to find people and connect with them that
Mhm.
have done it already and have
Yeah.
experienced it. That's how we did it. We did research online. We found blogs. We bought a book on adventure cats that this really cool lady wrote. Um,
Love that. Do you remember her name or the title of the book?
Adventure Cats: Living 9 Lives to the Fullest by Lori J. Moss.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Perfect. Thank you for
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So, that's a really cool resource, but yeah, so, like, there's always something out there for anybody who's looking. So if you're
Mhm.
hesitant about something specifically, do research, look at people's blogs, and like
Yeah.
I said, every experience is different, so you don't get
Mhm.
any it doesn't hurt to hear different people's experiences because yours
Yeah.
is gonna be different from everybody's anyway, so you might
Mhm.
as well take ideas from everywhere. But yeah, those are the things that I would say is make a plan, schedule, like anticipate what's gonna happen, and then if there's something that you're worried about,
Mhm.
look into that,
Okay.
specifically. And then that sort of like appeases the stress, I think,
Mhm.
of
I would agree
the
with that.
travel day. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Well, I appreciate that, and I hope that you guys have learned some things because I know I did. I have 2 fat cats that I'm gonna try to, move around.
Yay!
We've done some road trips, but no
Uh-huh.
airfare no, air travel just yet, so that's something interesting to think about. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on and giving us all the tips for that.
Yeah, in regard to the 2 cat thing,
Mhm.
the air travel, one thing to look into is that usually it's only allowed 2 pets per person, per
Yeah.
traveler, so that's really good
Mhm.
to know, and
Yeah.
some aircrafts only allow a certain amount of pets on board per flight.
Right.
I think like 6 to 8. So,
Mhm.
we've reserved our spots in advance to make sure that it's good that he's
Alright.
there, so,
Love it.
um,
See? More
yeah, just a
tips.
little tidbit there, yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of
So, if
course.
anybody wants to find you on social media, where can they find
Mhm.
you?
You can find us at The Hike Life Cat, on Instagram, and I think
Love
that
it.
that's our Facebook page too, but the Instagram is where we're at, so
That's where that's where you'll find
that's where the
everything.
action's at,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. I really appreciate that. And to my Next Stop Nonstop family, I want to remind you that as a new podcast is extremely helpful when our listeners and viewers can write a review on iTunes and repost the episode or website link so that we can grow our Next Stop Nonstop family. I want to truly thank you all so much for rocking out with me today. All new episodes of the Next Stop Nonstop podcast will release every Tuesday, so make sure you keep an eye out. Make sure to also tag at NextApp Nonstop in any of your comments, or if you have any topic suggestions, or if you just have any questions for me. At NextApp Nonstop can be found on all social media. So until we meet again, I'd like to wish you healthy minds and happy travels.